Good morning. Uh, well, if you're new here, my name is Lori, and this is Lori's Journey, and I do videos talking about my experiences with the Atkins diet. So for a while, we've been reading the book by Dr. Robert Atkins, the Dr. Atkins by Revolution, and we are getting into chapter 9 today. This chapter is called To Stay Flat, Start Counting Carbohydrate. And it looks like in this chapter, he's going to explain more of how low carb works. So I think this is kind of an exciting chapter, but you be the judge. All right, let's get into this. Most patients whom I see regularly, once a week or once a month, don't have to learn this simple drill because I do the calculating for them. I just ask them what they've missed most in their diet. I say, for example, have you missed fruits, vegetables, wine? Then each week, as long as the diet is working correctly, I may add approximately 5 to 8 grams of that item to the diet. It may be 4 glasses of wine a week, extra servings of allowed vegetables, a quarter of cantaloupe 4 times a week. This continues until each patient's critical carbohydrate level is established, 20 to 40 grams a day usually. But since you won't be coming to see me, you're in charge of your own diet. So it's vital that you learn where those killing carbohydrates lurk and how to keep book on your own intake. What we're after is to supply you with what you may miss without disturbing the normalizing process that is going to take off every last unwanted pound and give you back your youthful energy and good looks. I forgot something very important. I just need to real quick remind you, and in case you haven't been here before, my little disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional. And so I'm not a doctor, not a nurse or anything. I'm just somebody that's following this diet. And so if you're considering doing anything that I talk about, go see your personal doctor and discuss it with them first. Especially if you have some kind of condition like diabetes or anything, heart problems, it's a really good idea to closely monitor that with a doctor. But we will continue. Wear carbohydrate spectacles from now on. Now, the way to succeed in losing without really trying is to put on carbohydrate spectacles and look at your world of food through them from now on. Forget about calories. Forget about high fat, low fat, high protein, low protein, balanced diet, unbalanced diets. Forget everything except one thing. Only one thing matters for the rest of your life. Does what you are about to put in your mouth contain carbohydrate? If it doesn't contain carbohydrate, feel free, fill up. But if it does, how much? 2 grams, as in 3 grapes? That's a lot. Better consider skipping it. Besides, what good are 3 measly grapes? 10 grams, as in a sliver of birthday cake? That's certainly too much for any one mouthful if you want to lose without hunger. A lowish carbohydrate diet, the kind you've heard about before. A moderate reduction of carbohydrate intake doesn't mean much, I have found, because our carbohydrate intake is so high that a moderate reduction means we're still getting excessive amounts. Once you start actually counting the grams, you'll see this for yourself. The result, if you don't lose hunger, you don't lose weight. If you don't lose fatigue, depression, irritability that accompany high insulin and low blood sugar levels. A lowish carbohydrate doesn't change your chemistry. The point I'm trying to make to bring out is this. Only with drastically reduced carbohydrate intake do we see the benefits of carbohydrate restriction, the sense of well-being, the loss of hunger, and of pounds and inches. What do I mean by drastically reduced? I mean an intake of well below 40 grams of carbohydrate per day, and that's the upper limit. That's where most of you will end your diet and start maintenance. Where you start the diet, of course, is with a daily intake of 0 grams of carbohydrate. Although we allow salad on the diet from the start, and lettuce has carbohydrate in it, the amount it contains is so minute as to be biologically the equivalent of 0. The business of discovering where the killer carbohydrates lurk is fascinating. Life will be full of surprises. With your carbohydrate spectacles on, you know that a lemon, 6 grams, is almost equals half an orange, 7.5 grams, in carbohydrates. On the other hand, half an avocado, only 5.4 grams, is a good buy for a luncheon salad, even running over with crab meat, 4 ounces equals 1.3 grams. Moistens with mayonnaise, 1 tablespoon is only 0.2 of a gram. You will learn to be wary of all commercial tomato products. 1 tablespoon of catsup contains 4.9 grams, and whoever uses as little as 1 tablespoon. Now, some of you are old hands at gram counting, but for those who aren't, let's start at the very beginning. That's probably why the keto diet is also coined the avocado diet, because it's so low in carbs. That's a very common thing for people on keto to do, to eat. I don't like avocados, so I'm not eating them. Definition of a gram. What is a gram anyhow? Well, just as a calorie is a unit of heat, a gram is nothing more than a basic unit of weight in the metric system. To be precise, a gram is 0.035 of an ounce. Thus, there are about 30 grams to an ounce. So when we talk about how many grams of carbohydrate there are in a half cup of cooked peas, for example, we are talking about the amount of carbohydrate by weight, which has been determined in a laboratory to be built into that half cup of cooked peas. You can look up the carbohydrate content of food in a gram counter. Just as you've been accustomed to look up calorie values in a calorie counter, you can check the carbohydrate content of almost any food or drink in a carbohydrate gram counter. You'll find the carbohydrate gram content of the foods that are particularly relevant to this diet in a variety of sources. Calculating carbohydrates in your diet couldn't be easier once you're clued in. If you want to know the carbohydrate gram count of practically everything edible, I recommend several books to you. Most portable is the little purse-sized carbohydrate gram counter put out by Dell Publishing Company. Of course, nowadays we have the internet. All you have to do is ask Google or ask Siri, and you'll get your answer. But if you do want a little book, I think they're probably kind of outdated, the ones that he talked about. I got one that Dr. Atkins actually had, and it wasn't very resourceful for me because most of the things I eat were not, it had a lot of like restaurants and things that I don't have around here. And I mean, it had some foods that were in there, but that I eat, but I just felt like it's easier to just ask Google, ask Siri, they'll tell you. So that's my take on that. 7,500 foods are listed in the second book. A more comprehensive book is Barbara Krause's Calories and Carbohydrates, published by Grosset and Dunlap Inc., and constantly being revised so that it's up to date. Make sure you get the latest edition. It lists the calorie and carbohydrate content of 7,500 edibles and drinkables. Brand names are given. This can make a big difference. So that book might be resourceful if that's what you'd like to do. And most comprehensive of all is a handbook published by the Department of Agriculture. It contains not only the carbohydrate content of 2,483 edibles and drinkables, but also the amount of fat, protein, and food energy they contain, as well as the amounts of 5 minerals and 5 vitamins. It's a great buy for $1.50 and should be in every cook's library. Its title is Composition of Foods Agriculture Handbook Number 8. To get it, you write the Superintendent of Documents, U.S. Government Printing Office, Washington, D.C. 20402. I don't know if they're still doing that, but I highly doubt it's $1.50. I wonder if maybe they have something on their website you can download. That's a possibility, but interesting. Myths that need to be unlearned. To lose weight and all those other nasty signs of premature aging, you have to unlearn some dearly held beliefs. But these beliefs are myths, not facts. Let me give you some examples. Myth. A person needs fruits and vegetables for vitamins, minerals, and bulk. What about orange and grapefruit juice, for instance? Fact. What you need is the vitamin C in citrus fruit and other vitamins and minerals in fruit, all of which you get from other foods on this diet, and your vitamin supplement without also taking in the fruit sugars that trigger off your hyperinsulinism. You get ample bulk and variety from the green salad and other vegetables on this diet. Now, when I was pregnant with my third child, who is now just almost 13, I remember I had a horrible time with morning sickness. I could not drink milk at all. And I was telling the doctor I was really worried that I wasn't going to get the vitamins in there for, and there was other things that I just couldn't stomach, And the doctor said that, well, like I can eat yogurt and a banana, and that's really good for leg cramps. But then they also told me broccoli. He said broccoli or any of your leafy greens, they have enough the vitamin C equivalent to a glass of milk. Why are they marketing that we have to drink milk if my doctor's telling me you can get the same amount out of your broccoli and other leafy greens? So that will really surprise me. So, oh man, I really missed my milk during that time, but I haven't had a glass of milk in a long time and I don't miss it. So if you're a really major milk drinker and that's one of your reasons for not drinking it, just realize that, even if you don't like broccoli, there's other green vegetables that have the same amount of vitamin C as what a glass of milk has. So we don't have to drink milk. Myth. Everybody needs milk. So we're just talking about at least 1 or 2 glasses a day. If you want to lose weight, you should drink skim milk. Fact. Everybody needs the nutrients in milk, and you can get them on this diet in a long list of cheeses, including cottage cheese. But for people with a disturbed carbohydrate metabolism, the milk sugar or lactose in milk aggravates the disorder. Myth. A person needs sugar for the energy and for the functioning of brain cells. What you need is some sugar in your bloodstream, not in your diet. I'll read that. Sugar in your bloodstream, not in your diet. The surplus fat you are storing in your body is easily converted into carbohydrate, glycogen, so that it can be used for energy instead of disfiguring your body and shortening your life by remaining as fat. So there we go again with the sugar. We've got to, that's one of my downfalls. I've been doing better, but I still struggle with the sugar thing. I think I always will. But I noticed that my cravings have gone down, so that's a good thing. Ever since I stopped eating those Atkins bars, those were really making me crave sugar. And now that I've stopped that completely, I will confess that I've been eating some trail mix that has some M&Ms in it, but I just put enough M&Ms in it that will make it so I get a little bit of that sweet tooth. And I'm trying not to have it all the time, but if I do crave something, that's something that I know that is better than other choices. Let's put it that way. All right. Your nearest and dearest will, unconsciously, do their best to cross you up. It takes little practice to unscramble the confusion in your head between low calorie and low carbohydrate. And your friends, loved ones, and hostesses won't be any help. Everybody has ideas instilled in childhood about certain foods that are just bound to be good for you, the natural foods. Are there good carbohydrates and bad carbohydrates? Oh, but this is wonderful raw sugar, your hostess croons. Natural sugar, full of all kinds of vitamins and things. Well, it does have a few molecules of iron and other minerals, but it also has all the disadvantages of refined sugar in that overstimulates insulin flow. Its chief advantage, says one HEP nutritionist, is that perhaps it builds mental health by instilling a sense of virtue in its users. Is honey a good carbohydrate? And how many times have you heard about the mystic virtues of honey? Your friend looks at you unbelievingly and says, "No sugar at all? Well, at least you can have some of this honey. That's a natural food, very good for you." Not if you're allergic to carbohydrates. You explain, or you don't, that 1 tablespoon of honey contains 17.3 grams of carbohydrate. It's even higher than sugar. 1 tablespoon of sugar contains only 12.1 grams. If 25 grams of carbohydrate per day is your CCL, 1 good drizzle of honey, and you've had it. Remember that the world's first sugar refiner was a honeybee. Many people believe that not to drink orange juice is downright sacrilege. Good God, you can't have orange juice, you'll hear. Not at over 3 grams of carbohydrate per ounce. Not when a few quick swigs you've used up 18 grams of your day's allowance. Who needs it when a vitamin C tablet is so handy? Now, I don't like so much referencing that you can just take a vitamin C tablet and get all your vitamins. That's not what that's about. But do you realize that orange juice, all you're drinking is the sugar out of the orange? You're not getting even the benefit out of eating the orange when you drink orange juice. I mean, it's nuts. Why did we decide that taking all the sugary water, basically, out of an orange was a good idea? If you really think about it, it's kind of crazy. Yes, it has the vitamins in there, but it's not the way that God intended it, I'll say. Being against milk is like being against motherhood. When you wear your carbohydrate spectacles, skim milk suddenly looks different. Your friend says, "It isn't cream. I know that's horribly fattening. This is just milk. Skim milk Skim milk at that. Full of calcium, you know. Milk can't hurt you, for heaven's sake." Oh, but it can, with 12 grams of carbohydrate in every cupful of it. Forget that old idea that everyone needs a quart of milk a day. And what's more wholesome than a nice piece of homemade cake with it? Instead of milk, take the heaviest cream you can get in your coffee. Only a trace of carbohydrate in a tablespoon of that. Or take your coffee mit Schlagober, whipped cream, as they do in Middle Europe. Well sweetened and with mountains of cream is as satisfying as a murderous dessert. And with this, you lose instead of gaining. It's really hard to find heavy cream in my area that does not have that carrageenan stuff in it. I really look at the ingredients of things like that. Carrageenan, I looked it up once, and it's what they actually give people in a lab when they want them to gain weight so that they can do studies on them. And if that's what they're giving it to them for, I don't want it. I'm trying to lose weight. So 9 times out of 10, all these cream companies are putting the carrageenan in it, and I don't want it. I can't find any in my town that doesn't have that in it. So I go to Lincoln about once a week, which is about an hour away. And before I leave, I stop at one of the grocery stores and I look for, I found that the only brands that will not have the carrageenan are the organic ones. And so it's really hard to find. And if I can't find the heavy cream with it, then I'll have to get half and half. I have used whipping cream, but I kind of thought it was the same thing as heavy cream, but whatever. But yeah, but half and half is only if I can't find any of the regular cream, because half and half does have milk in it, so it's going to have more carbs than the heavy cream. If it's natural, how can it be bad for you? Your hostess says virtually, I never eat rich desserts either, but surely you can have some of these marvelous naturally cured raisins and dates. There's not a grain of sugar on them. Plenty in them, though. The dates are 78% sucrose, table sugar type sugar. The raisins, 64%. In a half cup of raisins, 55.7 grams of carbohydrate. In one date, 5.8 grams of carbohydrate. Or if there's pie for dessert, this is what you'll hear. Well, if you can't have pie, then have some fresh fruit. Now, come on any diet you can have fresh fruit. That's yesterday. Today you toed up the carbohydrate count. In an apple, 20 grams. In a banana, 26 to 30 grams. In a pear, around 25 grams. And a half cup of thick thaw mixed fruit, over 36 grams. Coffee, anyone? Cookies, cakes, and pies are all full of empty calories with little or no nutritional value. The menus and meal plans in this book are all based on protein and packed with nutrients. The Conservative Food and Nutrition Council states that for adequate nutrition, every adult should take in 60 grams of protein a day. Now, it's not easy to get those 60 grams of protein a day on a low-calorie diet. In our culture, there are some of us who don't take in that amount of protein on a high-calorie diet because so much of our food intake is usually carbohydrate. And, yeah, people are afraid of not eating fruit. I will say that some of the fruits that are a little bit better are usually berries. I hear a lot of people in the keto community talking about having berries. I don't think it's bad to once in a while have some fruit, but I wouldn't get into the habit every day or even every week if you can avoid it. If you're really afraid of not having any fruit, that's the route I would go, is have some berries, but definitely wait a while before you do that. I have had a few pieces of fruit here and there, and I've been doing this over a year, and my doctor's okay with it. She said that, she really likes that I'm doing Atkins. So let's see. No empty calories on a graham counters diet. On a low carbohydrate diet, however, it's a breeze to get more than an adequate intake of protein. You'll take in approximately 164 grams of protein in a day if you start it with 2 slices of bacon and 2 eggs for breakfast. Have a 5-ounce cheeseburger and green salad for lunch. Have 6 big shrimps, maybe scampi, for a first course at dinner. Then 2 big lamb chops, a green salad, and a 4-ounce piece of cheesecake. See recipe section for dessert. Low carb cheeseburger cake, that is. This is a fairly typical diet revolution for a big eater. More food than most people actually would consume because of the unhungriness that is a strong feature of your diet. However, suppose you could eat this much. You've taken in around 2,000 calories. But because you've taken in less than 10 grams of carbohydrate, you'll lose weight and feel great. And one of the reasons is because of the 164 grams of protein you put away so easily. All because you switched from being a hungry calorie counter to being an unhungry carbohydrate counter. I remember in the past, I was on a different diet. I was doing the 21 Days Fix by Beachbody. And I remember I had a coach and there was a Facebook group. And whenever anyone said that they were hungry and they couldn't stick to the diet, they said, eat more protein, fills you up. And that is true. It does. I had times earlier on in the diet where I was hungry and I just couldn't figure out anything to eat. So I made myself a cheeseburger, 2 patties even. So it'd be like a half pound of meat there. And I had that as something in the afternoon because I realized that I was super hungry and it kept me going. And it really helped. No bun, of course. Counting carbohydrate doesn't mean you have to go without desserts. Look at the dessert recipe section of this book. You'll see that you can have wonderful desserts on this diet. Cheesecake that's sweetly rich and creamy smooth, chocolate mousse, whipped cream, pies, even candy. Dozens of other sweets that are all very low in carbohydrate. And I promise you that once you start thinking about desserts while wearing those carbohydrate spectacles of yours, you'll begin having new dessert ideas all your own. Just as luxuriously sweet and just as low in carbohydrates as those in this book. I know this will happen. It happens with most of my patients. They sit in the waiting room exchanging dessert and other recipe ideas by the hour. The recipes in this book are largely the work of just 2 of these patients, and they have developed hundreds of others. Once your mind is focused on the challenge of how to put together low carbohydrate desserts, you'll find if you like cooking, you have an exciting new outlet for your creativity. If you don't like cooking, stick with the desserts in the book, varying the flavors to your heart's content. And nowadays, there's so many people doing keto and other low-carb diets. You can easily find YouTube recipes. You can find different things on the internet, all sorts of resources on the internet nowadays. So if you're looking for low-carb chocolate chip cookies, just type it in. You'll find it. You'll find tons of them. So if you're looking for something to help with your sweet tooth, that's something that'll help. I guarantee you. Yes, anyone can lose weight or can lose on high-calorie foods by counting grams. Take the case of Martin G. He was born hungry. He was a fat baby and has been fat and a big eater all his life. When he started on my diet, I asked him to write down every day everything he ate, exact quantities. He did this conscientiously. Ordinarily, Martin loves to play ball, but he hurt his ankle, so he hasn't had any exercise at all the last 6 weeks. Nevertheless, he lost 44 pounds in 4 months on this diet program and is still losing. He has a teenager's taste in food. He rarely eats lettuce or vegetables. But what is interesting is the quantity of food he eats while continuing to lose. His breakfast is always the same: 4 ounces of low carbohydrate, fruit-flavored drink, 2 eggs, usually scrambled in butter, and 3 slices of bacon, coffee with heavy cream. Martin G. eats enough for two, but not carbohydrates. Here is a fairly standard lunch. Two Swiss cheese sandwiches. He uses 2 slices of Swiss cheese for the outside instead of 2 slices of bread, and 4 slices of bologna inside. So lunch is a total of 4 slices of Swiss cheese, 8 slices of bologna. To this, he frequently adds 2 slices of roast beef or 2 fried eggs and a quarter or half a jar of macadamia nuts. He drinks a lot of Diet Cola. A typical dinner is 2 eggs, 4 slices of bacon, 4 slices of bologna, 2 slices of roast beef, half a grapefruit, and coffee. Another dinner, 2 frankfurters, 3 hamburgers, 2 colas, 3 light coffees. Another, shrimp cocktail, half-pound of chopped liver with onions, iced coffee, oh yeah, quarter jar of macadamia nuts. Another, beef stew with 1 pound of meat and onions, 2 light coffees. Before bed, he sometimes has a half jar of nuts or a few slices of cheese with his Diet Cola. I used to eat all day long and at night too, he says. Pizzas were my downfall. I couldn't stop eating them. I felt the same way about ice cream. Now I can pass pizza without a pang. Take a whiff and just pass by. It's so great to be able to get into good-looking clothes again, and I feel so good. But the reason I'm able to stay on the diet and was never able to stay on any other is because I can eat all I want. And as long as I keep the carbohydrate way down, the pounds drop off. I don't feel guilty, and I don't feel hungry, and I keep on losing. Oh man, pizza and ice cream, that's my downfall too. A big eating broker who lost a pound a day the first 12 weeks. Herb Wolowitz came to me on one June day weighing 367 pounds. He was a 32-year-old real estate broker who had been a 200-pounder since the age of 16. He had tried diet pills, and he had started and quit Weight Watchers many times. The last 100 pounds were of recent acquisition. I discovered that he had the typical diabetic hypoglycemic glucose tolerance curve that most overweight patients show. His blood sugar rose to 292, and 3 hours later it was 67. He also had high blood pressure and high triglycerides. Herb told me he didn't eat much at meals, but he did nosh a lot on sweets after dinner. I placed him on the diet in this book, and he followed it correctly, but he ate large quantities. For breakfast, he usually had a cheese omelet, and with lunch and dinner, he rarely ate less than 2.5 pounds of red meat. By the most conservative of estimates, his calorie intake was a minimum of 3,000 calories a day. He cut carbohydrates, but not calories. But 4 months later, he weighed 282 pounds. In 17 weeks, he had lost 85 pounds. His blood sugar and his blood pressure were now normal. His triglycerides had fallen 75 points, and his cholesterol 30 points. He felt great, as if he had been given a new lease on life, which he had. And of course, he was never hungry. How could he be eating all that food? First, we added a few more vegetables, then some alcohol. Later, some fruit. Still later, nuts. Herb's weight loss began to slow down to 2 pounds a week. But he is even happier because this new way of eating doesn't seem to Herb like a diet. I'm losing, but I'm not on a diet. I'm eating up a storm, he said happily. It's fantastic. That's the end of the chapter. And that is exactly why I say I don't like to call this a diet, because this is a lifetime way of eating. So it's not something that a diet, by definition, I don't know if this is Webster's definition or what, but by my own definition, is something that you do for a certain amount of time to lose weight. Then you go back to eating normal, which is exactly why when people go on diets and then they go on and off and on and off and on and off, you'll see them, they lose the weight, they gain the weight, they lose the weight, they gain the weight. You can't go back to eating your pizzas and high sugary foods after you've just lost 50 pounds. You've got to keep kind of a medium, a happy medium after you've lost the weight. So whatever plan you're doing, if you lose weight and because you were down here on sugar content and calories or carbs or whatever, and then you lose the weight and then you go up on this level of carbs or calories and sugar and everything, you're going to gain it back. So you got to keep it somewhere in the middle here to where you're going to be able to maintain it. And that's exactly why people say diets don't work, because it's temporary. And then your body, in most cases, is thinking, oh, we must be in a famine. We're starving. So we need to do this other stuff to make sure that we're going to be able to live through this. And then that's why your body starts storing fat when you're dieting on a low calorie diet. But when you're taking in more fat rather than the sugars, then your body is like, well, I got plenty of backup here, so I guess I can get rid of some of this, you know? So, yeah, that's my take on it anyway. And that's what I understand from what I've read. So that is all from chapter 9. It's summer now, but I still do have college class, so hopefully I'll be able to get on here next week, and I hope you have a wonderful week.